Dr. Drew. Now, one of the most serious health problems associated with sexuality is sexually transmitted disease. So here to help us examine this topic is infectious disease expert, Dr. Bonnie Bach. Dr. Bach, thank you for joining us. So how common are STDs?
They're very common. One of the most common things I treat in my office, actually.
Is that right? Is there one particular STD that's more common than the others?
The HPV is very common.
The wart virus,
yes,
the papilloma virus.
Chlamydia. Syphilis is common.
Is there one that you're most concerned about today?
Well, I'm most concerned about HIV because of the long-term implications of it.
Now, people have a lot of confusion about what are the STDs or what is an STD. I've heard oftentimes them categorized as classic STDs. There's a set that are the classic. Which ones are those?
The classic are syphilis and gonorrhea, HIV.
Give them a couple of zingers. There's lymphogranuloma venereum.
Lymphogranuloma venereum is another one that's sexually transmitted and can result in primarily lesions as well as swollen glands in the groin.
Last time I saw that was in male homosexual communities. Is that still a risk for that group?
It sure is, yes.
Also, lymphogranuloma venereum, LGV. And most of these things are treatable with antibiotics.
Most of these things are treatable, yes.
But some are not, like HIV, although now that's becoming a chronic illness too, isn't it?
It is. We did not mention herpes simplex, of course.
We haven't talked about that, but we will talk about that more. Up next, I met with a group of students at the University of California at Riverside and explored their concerns about STDs. Fact or fiction? STDs, everyone has misconceptions about them. 1 out of 4 people have them, more young people than older. So I thought, let's go to young people and see what kinds of questions they have about sexually transmitted diseases.
I have a question. Is it true it's harder to get an STD from oral sex than from, say, vaginal intercourse?
Depends on the STD. Most herpes, equally oral as genitalia. Chlamydia, gonorrhea, probably a little harder with oral sex. HIV, there's sort of a hierarchy of transmission. In other words, the worst being receptive partner in anal intercourse. Next being a female receptive partner. Next being a male in anal or vaginal intercourse. But if you're the male and somebody's giving you oral sex, then you're not so likely to get it. That's probably the least likely.
Okay, let's just say someone had intercourse or sex in a jacuzzi, like we'll say a couple hours or the day before, and then you're with a girl the next day or later that night.
In the same jacuzzi?
In the same jacuzzi. What's the percentage or what's the possibility?
You're basically only going to get things from the little pools of water on the side. And they only last like 4 to 8 hours. They have to be, those puddles have to have been there and stay. If somebody had active herpes, sat in a puddle, and then you sat in the puddle a couple hours later, that's a possibility. It's been theorized. How about myths about how you can avoid having an STD, the rituals you might go through?
Is it true that if you wash your genitals very well with antibacterial soap, that it'll avoid things like gonorrhea because they're bacteria?
Nope. Sorry. How about urinating after having sex?
Well, my biology teacher told me that there's a myth that certain women believe that if after having sex, they can go ahead and, go to the bathroom and washing the semen or the sperm out.
Or the infection, the affecting agents. No, urinating after sex may reduce your risk of a urinary tract infection a little bit, maybe, but not STDs. STDs, once there's contact, there's transmission for the most part. I mean, with herpes, it goes through the skin and is very rapid, so you can't wash it off. And with other things like chlamydia, gonorrhea, once it contacts the urethra, it's in. You can't undo that. Do anybody have questions about herpes, like type 1, type 2, how do these things work?
Well, I just want to know if you can transmit them any time of the month, or is it true that only when it's like shedding can you transmit herpes?
You have to be shedding virus to transmit it, but the problem is you can't tell when you're shedding.
Oh, I thought it was some visual, like you actually got sores, like...
Well, that's shedding. That thing you got on your lip there, that's actually shedding right now. I guarantee that check. The problem is that when that sore goes away, you can't tell when you're shedding.
So I shouldn't kiss a girl with this?
Not with that.
Question, if he were to have oral sex with a girl while you have a cold sore, can it spread to her vagina? Is that a myth or is it true?
That's the usual question. It's true.
How long can the virus survive in an environment like a toilet seat?
Herpes virus only? Almost not at all.
How about any?
Almost not at all. Toilet seats are not a big deal. But a moist towel or a puddle of water, then you've got a little different story. You guys have been great, very interesting, and I think we've learned a thing or two. Well, isn't it interesting how many myths and misconceptions they have about STDs? Joining me is Dr. Bonnie Bach to help us straighten some of these things out. And of course, the first thing we have to do is talk about the hot tub again. Do you think there are any significant risks of sexually transmitted disease from a hot tub, other than what I mentioned about the puddles around the side of the hot tub?
I think there are almost no risk of developing sexually transmitted diseases associated with the hot tub.
Thank you. We can put that one to rest. Is it? Yes? So, okay. You can get pregnant, you can't get an STD. Now, how about herpes? A lot of misconception about that. Type 1 versus type 2. They both occur both places?
Yes, most of the lesions in the mouth are type 1, and most of the lesions in the genital area are type 2. Both can occur in either spot.
In terms of human papillomavirus, HPV, wart virus, are you concerned about that one?
I am, yes.
Why?
It's very readily transmitted.
How common is it?
Oh, it's very common.
Maybe more than 50%?
Yes, it's actually the most common viral sexually transmitted disease.
What does it mean if a woman has that?
Well, initially they may be asymptomatic, have no symptoms, but later on they may develop an abnormal pap smear.
And ultimately?
And ultimately, certain types can lead to cancer of the cervix.
My understanding is that the types that cause the cancer are the ones, the viruses that persist.
Yes.
How do you know if you've got one of those?
Testing can be done by the gynecologist, obstetrician, and there can actually be a special test that will go to the laboratory that will tell whether or not it's one of the high-risk strains.
Would you have to ask for that testing, or is it done routinely?
It's done routinely, frequently, but certainly asking for it will be very helpful.
How about for men, HPV?
HPV in men is often without symptoms.
So they don't even know they have it.
Frequently they do not.
And does condom, do you think, really protect you against these?
A very small amount. That's one of the sexually transmitted diseases that condoms really don't protect against.
How about herpes?
Herpes somewhat, maybe reducing 50 to 60% of herpes simplex, but they're not perfect in preventing some of these illnesses.
And my understanding is also the majority of women with herpes do not know they have it.
That's correct.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bach, for clearing up some of these myths and misconceptions. But I just want to make one comment to our viewers, and that is that in our day and age of sort of casual hookup culture, particularly amongst young people, it seems to me there's sort of a cavalier attitude about sexually transmitted diseases. Some of this, I suspect, stems from the fact that young people are bombarded about the risks of AIDS to the point where they don't even seem to be hearing us anymore. You've seen the facts. The risks are real. So please be safe and be smart.